I am Zahir, Kelvin Abdullah, and you are tuning in to Nightline, news making the headlines. Madani government committed to eradicating hardcore poverty in Sabah. And redevelopment of Kampong Baru, failed developer urged to surrender project. The Madani government is committed to eradicating hardcore poverty in Sabah, despite knowing the situation is quite complicated to resolve. In this regard, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim believes that the close relationship between the federal government led by him and the Sabah government led by Chief Minister Datuk Sri Haji Noor can play an important role in realising the wish.
Kita pacu pertumbuhan. Kita mau pelaburan datang. Hotel-hotel kita penuh dengan pelancong. Tetapi kita punya tanggungjawab moral yang besar. Miskin tegar harus dinontahkan di seluruh negara kita dan termasuklah Sabah.
He said this when speaking at the National Madani 2024 Aidilfitri celebration held in Kota Kinabalu on Saturday. Anwar added hardcore poverty in Sabah had been successfully reduced to about 11,000 heads of households in the state. He had also mobilized government machinery, including the Implementation Coordination Unit, ICU, of the Prime Minister's department to further reduce that number in a short period of time. The Prime Minister noted that the problem of hardcore poverty in Sabah is more complicated with the arrival and intrusion along the border areas, but said he has entrusted full support to the state government under Hajiji to solve the issue together with the federal government.
Perdana Menteri yang bertekad mengembalikan kegemilangan nama negara di persada dunia. Sabah tetap bersama-sama menyokong dan mendukung perjuangan tersebut demi negara dan kesejahteraan rakyat seluruhnya.
Earlier, Anwar chaired a meeting with Sabah PKR division chiefs in Kota Kinabalu. Also discussed was the importance of strengthening cooperation between the federal and state governments to overcome citizenship issues in Sabah, especially those involving residents who still do not have valid identification documents. The Prime Minister also announced that the federal government has granted an immediate allocation of 80 million ringgit to establish a national heart centre in Sabah, which would make it the second largest heart treatment centre after the National Heart Institute in Kuala Lumpur. He highlighted that the need for the heart centre arises from the state's insufficient capacity for cardiology services, leading many individuals to seek treatment in Kuala Lumpur.
Kita dapat tubuhkan selain pada IJN, pusat jantung yang penting, yang kedua, yang terbesar di negara kita yang berpusat di Hospital Besar Kota Kinabalu. Terima kasih dan tahniah kepada rakyat Sabah.
The Prime Minister said that the centre is crucial to enhance cardiology services by deploying additional specialists and support personnel to meet the healthcare demands of Sabahans. He further stated that the federal government also agrees with the Sarawak government's proposal to establish a national cancer centre in Kuching. During his visit to Sabah, Anwar also paid his last respects to the late Sri Joseph Kurup. The Prime Minister arrived at the Memorial Centre at Wisma Fuk Lusiu at 2:22 p.m. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Sabah Chief Minister Datuk Sri Haji Noor. He was greeted upon arrival by Joseph's wife, Puan Sri Melinda Mak Sok Fong, and son, Deputy Agriculture and Food Security Minister Datuk Arthur Joseph Kurup. Joseph, aged 79, who was the founder of Parti Bersatu Rakyat Sabah and former Sabah Deputy Chief Minister, died at the National Heart Institute in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. He held several important positions, including Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for National Unity and Integration. His remains will be laid to rest this Tuesday. Former Inspector General of Police, IGP Tun Mohammed Hanif Omar, was laid to rest at the Bukit Kiara Muslim Cemetery, Kuala Lumpur at 3:15 p.m. on Saturday. His remains were buried next to his son, Allahyarham Ahmad Jamal Omar, who died in 2013. Hanif's remains were taken to the main prayer hall of the National Mosque before the funeral prayers was performed. Around 1,000 attendees, including family members, senior police officers and friends gathered for the funeral prayer. Also present were the Prime Minister's wife, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail, as well as Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein, Deputy IGP Datuk Sri Ayub Khan Maidin Piche, former IGPs Tan Sri Musa Hassan and Tan Sri Khalid Abu Bakar, and former Deputy IGP Tan Sri Mazlan Mansour. Before the burial, Razaruddin handed over the Jalo Gemilang that had draped Hanif's coffin to his second child, Captain Abdul Rahmat Omar, as a gesture of the Royal Malaysia Police's final respects. 85-year-old Hanif, who died at 2:15 a.m. due to kidney failure at his residence in Shah Alam, Selangor, served as the 4th IGP starting from June 8, 1974, at the age of 35 until his retirement on January 15, 1994.
Saya sebagai Ketua Polis Negara dan juga servis bawah yang ni Allahyarham ini, sejak daripada inspektor sehingga saya pangkat ASP, saya anggap sebagai seorang pegawai polis yang bijaksana, mempunyai wisdom dia tersendiri, dan juga saya anggap sebagai legend dalam penjara.
Meanwhile, Abdul Rahmat said his father consistently instilled in his children a strong sense of love and responsibility to protect the country.
Seorang yang begitu berdedikasi terhadap kerja, ya, sehingga kan bila dia lepas dia dah pencen tu, dia pernah tanya pada saya, adakah dia ni terlalu mementingkan negara sehingga mengabaikan keluarga ataupun okey. Tapi saya katalah anak-anak semua faham yang bila dia bertugas tu dia memang jadi hak negara lah.
Meanwhile, in a social media posting, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim extended his condolences to the family of Hanif. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahir Hamidi also conveyed his condolences through a post on his official Facebook page. He prayed that the soul of the late Hanif be blessed with mercy and placed among the believers and the righteous. Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani has urged the developer behind the proposed redevelopment of Kampung Sungai Baru, which has been on hold for 6 years, to consider handing over the property to another developer with potential of completing the project. The Titi Wangsa MP said the project has seen no development, even though 95% of the residents have been relocated. Met by reporters at the Plantation and Commodities Ministry's Aidilfitri Open House in Kampung Baru on Saturday, Johari said despite several discussions held with the developers, there has been no progress except for findings that the company involved may be facing financial issues.
Kerana tidak ada kewangan, kerajaan dah bagi support untuk buat land acquisition. Dia dah buat semua. Tapi kalau dia tak boleh proceed, dia tak boleh teruskan untuk membangun ni, untuk bawa balik orang yang dah pindah, maka saya cadangkan supaya dia surrender tanah ni.
He said that the Kampung Sungai Baru area had been left neglected and unmanaged as the project had been postponed for too long. He added that since the people have moved out and the buildings are now empty, the area has attracted rats and other social ills, including drug addicts.
Mereka dah sacrifice rumah mereka tapi dia tak dapat balik rumah mereka. Jadi yang ini saya nak tekankan supaya saya akan terus pastikan bahawa projek ini mesti dimulakan. Dan untuk menunjukkan dimulakan, dia kena roboh dulu blok-blok yang telah dikosongkan ini supaya tidak ada isu-isu yang berbangkit dalam kawasan. Ya?
Johari added that the development in the area was stalled after 5% of flat owners did not move, while the remaining 95% have moved out and were waiting for new houses from the developer. Last November, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim instructed that the redevelopment can no longer be put off after being delayed for 6 years. Meanwhile, more than 20,000 visitors attended Johari's open house on Saturday afternoon. The event, which ran from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m, featured a variety of dishes, while visitors were entertained with performances by local artists such as Aisyah Retno and Shiha Zikir.
Kerana kampung baru ni surga makanan. Jadi banyak kita punya vendor-vendor ni ada yang datang daripada orang baru juga. Kan kita panggil yang mana bagus-bagus, masak sedap semua kita bawa masuk. Jadi datang sini lah nak enjoy lah food orang Melayu kat sini.
Also present at the event were Media Prima Group Chairman Dato' Sri Dr. Syed Hussein Syed Aljunid, Chief Executive Officer of Media Prima Television Networks and Primeworks Studios, Nini Yusof, and Media Prima Television Networks News and Current Affairs Deputy Group Editor, Azahari Muhyiddin. The death of a Form 2 student while taking part in a cross-country run has led to the Negeri Sembilan Education Department requesting all students to declare their health status. The department's director, Dr. Roslan Hassan, said students must inform school authorities before participating in any indoor or outdoor activities, especially those involving physical activities. Dr. Roslan said parents or guardians must inform teachers or school authorities about their child's health status to avoid unwanted incidents during extracurricular activities at school. This would ensure that schools have accurate information about each student's health status so that those with health problems can be exempted from extracurricular activities. Roslan said this in response to the death of a student, Nokman Naufal Shamsul Fadzli from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Jafar in Gentam, Kuala Pilah. The student, who had a congenital heart defect, died after collapsing 50 meters from the finish line during a cross-country run at 9:30 a.m. on Friday. Kuala Pilah Deputy District Police Chief Shahrul Anwar Abdul Wahab was reported as saying that according to the student's father, the boy had been diagnosed with a heart condition in 2016 and was on medication after being treated at the National Heart Institute. Meanwhile, Health Minister Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad said both parents and teachers need to be aware of students' health conditions before they undertake any outdoor activities, including cross-country races, in view of the current hot weather. He said this was important to prevent children or students from any potential risks, especially during their involvement in extracurricular activities. The Health Ministry issued 5,549 compounds worth 1.4 million ringgit for smoking offences last month. Its Director General, Dr. Muhammad Radzi Abu Hassan, said the Health Ministry conducted enforcement visits under the Control of Tobacco Product Regulations 2004. Enforcement visits to more than 18,000 premises under the Control of Tobacco Product Regulations 2004 resulted in a total of 8,926 notices issued for various offences. Through the enforcement of the Destruction of Disease-Bearing Insects Act 1975 to prevent and control dengue fever, 3,816 compounds worth 1.91 million ringgit were issued, averaging 500 ringgit per compound. He said 642 cases were registered for court action, while 95 cases were convicted in court, with fines totaling more than 180,000 ringgit. Meanwhile, Dr. Radzi said that through the enforcement of the Food Act 1983, a total of 33,473 food premises were inspected. Some 124 premises, or 0.37% of the total premises inspected, were issued temporary closure notices aimed at ensuring the cleanliness of the premises and the food served. Media Prima Audio MPA has once again emerged the top radio station in the country with 5.6 million listeners. Research by Nielsen Consumer and Media View CMV from January to December last year revealed that the station showed a steady increase of 100,000 listeners compared to the previous year. In a statement on Friday, MPA said that there had been a consistent rise in previous week listeners aged 15 and above in Peninsular Malaysia. MPA Chief Executive Officer Nazri Noran said that in line with the digital era, they wanted to focus on fresh and innovative contents for listeners to interact directly with radio announcers at all times. Hot FM has maintained its position as the top radio station in Malaysia, boasting 4 million weekly listeners attributed to its successful campaigns. This is the result of successful campaigns such as the friendly match between Johor Darul Takzim Football Club, hosted by Khairi Jamaluddin, and the Picnic Backpass Hot Tour with Gardenia. Meanwhile, Fly FM remained the top English radio station with 2.15 million weekly listeners. Cool 101, MPA's second Malay radio station, achieved phenomenal growth with 234,000 listeners in 6 months. As for 8FM, the Chinese radio station has had 506,000 weekly listeners. Explosion hits Iran-aligned military base in Iraq. News from the foreign front when we return.
Kepetahan wartawan cilik mewarnai dunia penyiaran.
Hai hampa semua, anak dara tercekik halkom. Assalamualaikum. Cita-cita Haziq ada banyak. Nak jadi wartawan, lepas tu nak jadi MA. Mak pesan, nak famous juga tapi pelajar is number 1.
Tema ni semua bermula daripada kitchen cabinet. Saya namakan tema saya Rustic Farmhouse sebab kombinasi colour dia.
Collection kita tahun ni adalah berkonsepkan klasik, tradisional tapi modern.
Nona di TV3 dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Loya, muntah dan cirit birik.
Kalau dah termakan tu, bila dah makan tu dah boleh rasa dah. Rasa dia pahit.
Lebih menggurunkan, dehidrasi akibat keracunan makanan boleh meragut nyawa.
Dah tak boleh, dah tak mampu nak berdiri.
Lihat, hidu dan rasa untuk elakkan keracunan makanan. Perbincangannya di Hello Doktor, Ahad 5.30 petang, di TV3 dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. Indonesia's elite counter-terrorism force arrested 8 suspected militants in recent days, believed to be part of a new cell linked to Jemaah Islamiyah and Al-Qaeda-linked group. The suspects were arrested in the city of Palu, Sigi and Poso, which is a known extremist hotbed. According to Provincial Police Chief Agus Nugroho, the raids were conducted between Tuesday and Thursday. 2 laptops, several cellular phones and documents, including jihadist books, were seized and suspects were being interrogated. The suspects were believed to actively participate in organization activities, particularly in military-style training and collecting funds for alleged plans of terror acts. Jemaah Islamiyah is responsible for several attacks inside Indonesia, namely the 2002 bombings on the resort island of Bali that killed 202 people, mostly foreign tourists. A huge blast at a military base in Iraq early on Saturday killed a member of an Iraqi security force that includes Iran-backed groups. The blast hit the Kalsu military base in Babylon province, south of Baghdad, where regular army, police and members of Iraq's popular mobilization forces are stationed. While the Iraqi security force commander said it was believed to be an attack, its military reported no drones or fighter jets in the area before or during the blast. The United States military denied reports that it was behind the airstrikes in Iraq. It comes days after Iran launched an unprecedented assault on Israel, which reportedly responded with a drone strike on the Islamic Republic. In Mexico, 2 mayoral candidates have been found dead on Friday ahead of the country's general elections this year. Local media reported that candidate Noah Ramos Ferretti who was seeking re-election as mayor of Ciudad Mante, was found stabbed and lying on a sidewalk, while the second slain candidate, Alberto Garcia, who was running for mayor in the state of Oaxaca, was found dead a day after he was reported missing, along with his wife, who survived the ordeal. It was reported that Garcia was apparently beaten to death on an island in a reservoir near the town where drug gangs have been active in the area. The deaths reported have now brought the toll to 17 candidates killed in the lead-up to the country's most violent election on record. We're back with news from the foreign front. The Zionist regime continues to carry out its military offensive in the Gaza Strip, killing at least 37 Palestinians and wounding 68 others in the past 24 hours. In the latest wave of attacks on Rafah city, an Israeli airstrike on a house killed at least 10 Palestinians, including 6 children. The regime also deployed more troops to areas adjacent to Rafah and destroyed agricultural land in the eastern areas of the governorate. Tension has also been high in the occupied West Bank, where an Israeli raid in the North Shams refugee camp killed at least 5 Palestinians, including a teenager. According to Gaza's health ministry, this brings the total death toll to 34,049, while the number of wounded to 76,901. Malaysia suffers second consecutive defeat. Sports after this breather.
Panas ke?
Angin tu orang guna kipas.
Maafkanlah jika ada terlanjur perkataan.
Single, saya masih single.
Wah, alhamdulillah syukur. Amin berkat. Dah cukup 2 dah. Tak adalah nak balik kampung.
Kepetahan wartawan cilik mewarnai dunia penyiaran.
Hai hampa semua. Anak dara tercekik Helcom. Assalamualaikum. Cita-cita Hussein ada banyak. Nak jadi wartawan. Lepas tu nak jadi MA. Mak pesan. Nak famous juga tapi pelajar is number 1.
Tema ni semua bermula daripada kitchen cabinet. Saya namakan tema saya Rustic Farmhouse sebab kombinasi colour dia.
Collection kita tahun ni adalah berkonsepkan klasik, tradisional tapi modern.
Nona di TV3 dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
We're back with sports football, the 2024 AFC Under-23 Asian Cup. Malaysia suffered their second consecutive defeat as they bowed 2-0 to Vietnam in the Group D match on Saturday night. A goal each from Quat Van Kang and Vo Huang Min Kuo gave Vietnam the comfortable win with another 3 points to lead the group with 6 points. The Young Tigers will play Kuwait in the last group match on Tuesday. In another match, Japan sealed their place in the knockout stage after beating United Arab Emirates 2-0 in their second Group B encounter. The Japanese took the lead after 27 minutes when Seiji Kimura headed home an inviting cross following a corner kick. The Go Oiwa's side sealed the win in the 66th minute, also from a header, this time Sota Kawasaki steering the ball home following Ayumu Ohata's first-time cross from the left byline. With the victory, Japan will face off against South Korea on Monday to determine who takes the top spot in the group standings. On to Formula One, the 2024 Chinese Grand Prix. Red Bull's triple world champion Max Verstappen followed his victory in Saturday's sprint race by leading the way in qualifying to capture pole position for Sunday's race. The Dutch pole time of 1 minute 33.660 seconds was 0.322 quicker than Mexican teammate Sergio Perez, who came close to being knocked out in the very first phase when he hit traffic. Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso and McLaren's Lando Norris shared the second row after taking third and fourth place respectively in qualifying. 7 times world champion Lewis Hamilton finished second, but the Mercedes driver failed to advance from the first phase after making changes to the car and will start the race from 18th place on the grid. Verstappen earned 8 points for victory in the sprint to climb to 85 points in the driver's standings, while Perez added 6 to stay in second place on 70 points. Coming up, woman who splashed hot water to a Down syndrome man remanded. Don't go away.
Lawyer, muntah dan cirit birik.
Kalau dah termakan tu, bila dah makan tu dah boleh rasa dah. Rasa dia pahit.
Lebih menggurunkan, dehidrasi akibat keracunan makanan boleh meragut nyawa.
Dah tak boleh, dah tak mampu nak berdiri.
Lihat, hidu dan rasa untuk elakkan keracunan makanan. Perbincangannya di Hello Doktor, Ahad 5.30 petang di TV3 dan stream juga melalui Tonton.
Jumpa satu tempat tu, macam gugusan buah anggur. Berlapis-lapis kuyuk ke. Makanan tradisional ni harus diteruskan supaya anak cucu cicit kita boleh merasai sendiri keenakan lemang puyuk kera ni.
Saya tanya dia, apa sakit? Curi. Kotak pensel. Saya curi kotak pensel untuk anak saya. Sudah. Berjurai air mata saya sebab saya menolong dia. Budak tu dah menjadi seorang peguam.
Stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Tak puaslah nak tengok drama raya dekat skrin telefon ni. Kecil sangat. Tangan pun lenguh je nak pegang.
Lah kan? Sekarang dah boleh layan Tonton dekat Smart TV. Cari aplikasi Tonton dan muat turun je. Tekan butang sign in, nanti akan keluar link. Tapi nak lagi senang, scan je QR tu. Masukkan ID dan password. Dah siap. Senang je kan? Lepas ni, bolehlah tonton drama raya ramai-ramai.
The woman who was seen in a recent viral video splashing hot water on a man with Down syndrome in an apartment elevator has been placed under a 4-day remand order. She's being detained until Wednesday to assist investigations under Section 324 of the Penal Code for assault. Southwest Acting Police Chief Deputy Superintendent Jeffrey Matzain said the 39-year-old suspect, who is a neighbour of the victim, was detained on the apartment grounds at 9:21 p.m. on Friday. Police also seized a handbag and a water tumbler that was believed to have been used during the attack. The incident occurred at around 9:30 a.m. on Friday when the 33-year-old victim was returning to his apartment on the 16th floor. Following the attack, the victim was taken to the Pulau Pinang hospital, where it was confirmed that he suffered burns on the front and back of his body due to exposure to hot water. A 20-second video of the incident also went viral on social media, with netizens condemning the women's actions. Police are still investigating the reason behind the attack, as it is understood that the victim and suspect had never spoken to each other before the incident. Police were on the hunt for a male suspect regarding the case of a nurse who was found unconscious by the side of a road near Kuala Pilah, Negeri Sembilan on Friday night. Kuala Pilah Deputy District Police Chief Sharul Anwar Abdul Wahab said police received a report about the incident at around 11 p.m. by members of the public after the woman was found lying face down on the ground beside her car with the engine still running. Her shoes had been removed and were also found near the victim. Sharul Anwar said the woman, who is in her 30s, was on her way home from work at the hospital when the incident occurred. Based on the victim's initial statement, she said she was not robbed, but only hit on the head. Investigations also found that no personal belongings were missing. The case is being investigated under Section 324 of the Penal Code for voluntarily causing hurt with a dangerous weapon. That concludes Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look at China's Mount Fanjing, which has been shrouded in a sea of clouds, creating a mesmerizing wonderland. I'm Zahir, Kelvin Abdullah. Thank you for tuning in and have a restful weekend.